Hi friends, good morning. Welcome to Shankaran AI Study Circle. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director of the Institute. Today in this particular video, we will try to discuss about the issues related to the administration of union territories in India. So, despite Part 8 of the Indian Constitution providing in detail with respect to how the administration of the union territories needs to be done, there are a number of problems arising out of the provisions in the Indian Constitution. So let us see what are the problems, what are the issues, what are the concerns relating to the administration of the union territories. If you see here, especially I told that there are 8 union territories in India, out of which only 3 union territories they had a legislative assembly and an elected council of ministers. In the remaining 5 union territories, there is no elected legislative assembly and no elected council of ministers. In all such union territories, the people there were deprived of an accountable and responsible administration. For example, in the recent past, in the islands of Lakshadweep, one of the administrators tried to behave in a very arbitrary manner, and the people of Lakshadweep were not able to do anything to deal with such a person. So when India had a parliamentary democracy, that is a representative democracy at the union level, and in all the states, in addition to that, in 3 union territories like Jammu and Kashmir, Puducherry and Delhi, in the remaining 5 union territories, the administration of the remaining 5 union territories is done by the president through an administrator, and this administrator is not made very accountable to the people of these union territories. So this will deny the benefits of representative democracy which is otherwise available to the people, the citizens in other parts of the country. That is the biggest concern, because the total population in all the 8 union territories accounts for 3.68 crores. Keeping this huge population being located in the union territories, we need to find solutions to balance the representative democracy in the union territories and also the powers of the union government without undermining the powers of the union government wherever there are issues or concerns of national security. See the first point here. Citizens living in the union territories have no recourse to hold the people governing them accountable, which undermines democratic rights of these people which are otherwise available to the people living in the states. I gave an example. In the recent past, in the islands of Lakshadweep, one of the administrators tried to undo several things which were once part of these islands without a reason, without any justification. So his behavior is understood to be against the interests of the people, against the democratic aspirations of the people. If an administrator acts according to his whims and fancies in an arbitrary manner without much accountable to the people, that is a cause of genuine concern to be addressed by the governments. That's the point one. In addition to this point is important because in India, the total number of people located in the union territories is 3.68 crores. 3.68 crore Indians were living in 8 union territories of India, and these people were denied the democratic right of having their assemblies with the full powers enjoyed by the people living in the states. If not powers on par with the states, at least partial statehood if it is conferred, or at least if local self-governing institutions are created in the union territories where there are no legislative assemblies and elected council of ministers, there will be a greater opportunity for the people to participate in the process of administration, in the process of governance, so that the aspirations of the people can be better met, is the essence or the takeaway point of this criticism. In addition to this, Even in the case of union territories which have an elected government, they have very limited powers compared to the states. We have seen in Delhi, at least in the recent past, after Arvind Kejriwal became the chief minister of the state of Delhi, there was a continuous conflict between the union government and the elected government of Delhi. This matter even went to the Supreme Court, which gave the verdict in July 2018. So even in the union territories, which are provided with an elected legislative assembly and an elected government, there are problems. Even in Puducherry, there were a conflict between the lieutenant governor and the elected government in Puducherry. So because the reasons are, the lieutenant governor was trying to undermine the elected government in the union territories like Puducherry and also in Delhi. Then in addition to this, the union territories have not been granted necessary autonomy. The union territories have not been granted necessary autonomy, thus depriving them of a fully democratic setup. Enormous powers have been vested in the administrator or lieutenant governors in the UTs. The UTs are often at the mercy of the appointees of the central government. See, one of the principles of democracy is accountability. The greater the responsibility, the greater the power with an administrator, he needs to be more accountable to the people. So accountability measures need to be put in place to see that those people who are in public office behave in a responsible manner. In addition to this, there shall be a greater opportunity for the people to participate in the affairs which have an impact on their day-to-day life. Then, as I told just now, constitutional experts have pointed out the recent example of protest in Lakshadweep Island against administrators' policy as a case of the UT administration failing to represent the interests of the citizens of UT. Similarly, if you take the Union Territories Act, the Union Territories Act of 1963, in this there is one section, section 44. Section 44 of the Government of Union Territories Act 1963 and Article 239 AA Clause 4 of the Constitution, the administrator or the lieutenant governor has the right to disagree with the decisions of the Council of Ministers and then refer the matters to the President for a final decision. So even in the recent past, in July 2018, the Supreme Court said, in case of disagreement or difference of opinion between the elected government and lieutenant governor, it is not necessary that every matter needs to be referred to the President of India for his instructions, not required. So in the light of pragmatic, collaborative, cooperative federalism, the lieutenant governor and the elected government of Delhi must look for solutions without referring every matter to the President of India. But that working relationship is under stress and strain in the recent past. So, as a result, this allows the union government to control the UT through the administrator. So, in the recent past, we have seen in Puducherry and Delhi that the union government is trying to control the union territories. The elected government is there through the administrator, which should not have been the case. Similarly, as I told, despite the Supreme Court noting in the NCT of Delhi versus Union of India case that the administrator should not misuse his or her power, the administrator or the lieutenant governor should not misuse his or her power to frustrate the functioning of the elected government in the union territory. In other words, both the elected government and the lieutenant governor or administrator must behave in a responsible manner to uphold the constitution, to uphold the spirit of cooperative federalism. Despite the judgment of the Supreme Court, there has been no improvement in this regard. Then when it comes to the nomination, especially in Puducherry, this has been the case. Article 239A, which was inserted through the 14th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1962, provided for the establishment of either fully elected or partly elected and partly nominated legislative assembly to the Union Territory of Puducherry by the Parliament through an ordinary law. But here, if you compare Rajya Sabha with the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry, even in Rajya Sabha, there are nominated members, but the grounds are clearly specified. So people who had excellence in certain sectors were made eligible to become the members of Rajya Sabha through nomination. Such qualifications were not, such a specialization was not clearly mentioned in the 1963 Act. Government of Union Territories Act 1963 does not clearly spell out what are the sectors wherein the excellence is required for the persons to be nominated as MLAs in the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry. And as a result, if the union government handpicks people who otherwise don't deserve to be a member of Legislative Assembly, this is bound to create a resentment among the people of that union territory, even among the Chief Minister who is there from that union territory. So here, as I told, under Article 80, members can be nominated to Rajya Sabha, and there are certain sectors where these members need to have excelled. So similar conditions were not laid down in the article of 239A. Then the purpose of this nomination, of course there is a purpose for nominating people to Rajya Sabha as well as the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry. The reason is to draw the expertise, of these eminent members to enrich the debate in the House. So actually the purpose or the intention to have nominated members in the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry, or for that matter even in Rajya Sabha, shall be to increase the quality of the debate in that House by nominating those people who are experts in certain fields, contributing to better decision making in the Legislative Assembly. This shall be the larger thinking on the part of the union government when it uses its powers of nomination. In addition to this, in the case of nomination to the Puducherry Assembly, no such qualifications is laid down. In the case of nomination to the Puducherry Legislative Assembly, the total strength of the Legislative Assembly in Puducherry is 33, out of which 3 can be nominated by the union government. But no qualifications were laid down either in Article 239A or even in the Government of Union Territories Act. No qualifications were laid down. Due to this, there is every possibility of arbitrariness. There is every possibility of arbitrariness while nominating the members to the Legislative Assembly of UT. And even the Supreme Court in one of the important cases unfortunately said, in a case known as K. Lakshmi Narayana versus Union of India 2019. In this case, the Supreme Court said, the union government is not required to consult the state government for nominating members to the assembly, and the nominated members have the same right to vote as the elected members. So the second part, there is no problem. The nominated members shall have the same right like the elected members with respect to the right to vote. That's true. That's not a big problem. But when it comes to nomination, if the union government makes some consultation with the concerned state government, if wrong people are nominated as the members of the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry, at least the state government will have an opportunity to protest and resent so that the union government can make corrections. But unfortunately, in this judgment, K. Lakshmi Narayanan versus Union of India, the Supreme Court upheld that the union government is not required to consult the state government for nominating the members to the Legislative Assembly of Puducherry. In addition to this, I said initially that the reason why the union territories were created in India is, the reasons are several. One is to protect the cultural distinctiveness of a particular region, or if the region is too small to become a state, or to protect the interests of the tribal populations, etc., union territories were created. And even there were reasons like the strategic location of certain regions from the point of national security, that they were continued as the union territories. But here the argument is, there were examples wherein the regions which are otherwise having low population were made into union territories. For example, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh were earlier union territories, but the population size is small. Despite that, they are made into states. Similarly, Sikkim has also become a state despite having smaller population even compared to some of the union territories like Puducherry and Dadra and Nagar Haveli. So here the argument is the size of the union territory need not be an excuse for not giving partial statehood, or at least not giving a kind of representative democracy in these union territories, is the argument. In addition to this, in the context of emerging cosmopolitan culture everywhere because of globalization, privatization, across the world, cities have become cosmopolitan. People with a different cultures, religious beliefs are trying to reside in one city or the other. So given this, just because certain regions have got a distinct cultural identity, they don't need to be continued as union territories without merging with the adjoining states, because if this is done, they are denied the benefits of the representative democracy, an elected legislative assembly and an elected government. So here the recommendation is that the union government needs to reconsider, in the light of growing democratic aspirations of the people in the union territories, whether it is really necessary to continue certain regions as union territories at all without giving them the benefit of the representative democracy. So this needs to be reconsidered is the recommendation made from one school of thought. That's it about the concerns which were raised relating to administration in the union territories in India. Thank you.